If you've been trying to manifest your dreams for a long time now and you're not achieving your results, I have a hard truth for you. It's you. You're the problem. It's you. But you're also the solution. So before you click off, allow me to explain how your thoughts and self-conception and everything that you consider to be you are actually the obstacles towards achieving your intended goal, and how you can actively work towards changing that self-concept and manifesting the life of your dreams. Number one, if you haven't yet manifested your dreams, it's because you're living the life of a person who doesn't manifest their dreams. Okay, that's kind of tautological. What does that actually mean? It means that to have a life of abundance, it means first being clear on what it is you want to achieve, what it is you want out of life, and what a person who lives that life believes, feels on a day-to-day. Who is that person? What is their day-to-day feeling about life? What thoughts do they think? What are their priorities? How do they speak to other people? What kind of boundaries do they set? How do they manage their time? What kind of jobs do they work? Who's in their circle of friends, and what beliefs do they have about themselves? What they can achieve? What their obstacles are? How do they conceive of themselves? If you haven't taken the time to think about that and think it through, then that could be one of the reasons why you haven't manifested the life of your dreams. One of the other reasons is that your self-concept, in other words, your belief about who you are and the actions that you take and what it is that defines you as a person are limiting you in some ways. Think about it. Let's take Janice, for example. Janice is a school teacher. She wakes up every morning, she goes to school, she brings laughter and kindness to her teaching. And Janice dreams about living a life of leisure on the beach where she can rescue baby turtles. Sounds nice. Now, Janice wakes up every day and goes to work, and she teaches her students. And she lives the life of a person who is a teacher. She attends parent-teacher conferences, reads up on education. Her YouTube feed is about the latest research about how to teach more effectively, which is wonderful. When she goes home at night, she likes to scroll on her YouTube shorts. She goes to the grocery store, buys the same thing she bought the day before. Notice the pattern here? Janice would never in a million years quit her job on a whim and go to a beach in which those turtles hatch. It would be far too out of character. And that's the key. Janice doesn't believe herself to be the kind of person who just drops everything and goes. She has a self-concept of a person who is steady and reliable, and most of us do. And most of us are not willing to face the discomfort and the uncertainty and the risk of leaping into something without knowing how things are going to end up, because our self-concept is based on the experiences and the beliefs that we've had in the years leading up to our present moment. And so, what would Janice have to do to actually become the person that goes and rescues those turtles? Well, she has to decide who that person is in a very realistic way. Who is that person? Is that the kind of person who takes daring leaps of faith? Maybe it's the kind of person who becomes self-made because she knows that she can't achieve that on a teacher's salary. So does she decide to start a side gig, educating people, raising money for turtles, starting a foundation to help turtles across the world? Does she start changing the content of her YouTube feed? Does she put her actions and her energy towards achieving that life? Or does she continue to dream and really want, but knows that that's a pipe dream that'll never come true? Now, you might tell me, okay, well, I've only ever been Janice. I only know how to be Janice. I want that turtle sanctuary, and I'm willing to take steps to it. Okay. If you start taking those steps, what are some of the things that are still limiting you? In addition to your self-concept, it might be your beliefs. Beliefs about who you are, what is possible for you, how much discomfort you're willing to tolerate, what it means about you if you feel discomfort or if you don't succeed the first time around. Ultimately, it may have something to do with your own understanding of your self-worth. Perhaps deep down, you don't believe yourself worthy of this life. In that in every choice that you make, even the actions that you take towards your goal, you may be sabotaging yourself unconsciously because you are afraid of what it means to be successful. If you don't believe you're worthy, then you will never allow yourself to have circumstances that will contradict that belief. And that's a hard one. Oh gosh, is that ever a hard one to overcome? There are ways that you can approach that. My number one recommendation is therapy if you have access to it and if it's within reach. Therapy has done a lot for me over the years to help me understand my feelings of self-worth and to heal inner child wounds of self-worthiness and many other issues. But if therapy is not accessible to you, then confide to a friend and start unwrapping those questions. Ask yourself a hard question and then keep asking yourself, why is that true? Why is that true? Why is that true? Until you have the core issue. And once you're at that core issue, set some time to sit with it. And it may bring up some very difficult thoughts, so be prepared for it to be a difficult journey. But I'm not a therapist, and so I can't legally advise you on what to do there. But what I would say is do what people have been doing forever. Talk it out. Find a safe space in which to have those conversations and ask yourself why this might be true for you. What triggered this feeling? What is at the root cause of it? And if you don't have a friend in which you can do this safely with, then get yourself a shadow journal and really explore those deep questions and try to find some resolution as to what's been holding you back all this time. Now, you may have another belief that is holding you back from manifesting the life of your dreams. And that is that your thoughts and your beliefs are actually you. I hate to break it to you, but thinkers and ancient yogis and Buddhists and many other thought leaders around the world for time immemorial, and even science, have come to the conclusion that you are not your thoughts. Any yogi or meditation expert can tell you that. You are the observer of your thoughts. Let's take an example. You have two choices in front of you. Either to follow your sweetheart to California where they live and they're starting a new life, or to hang back in Venice, Austria, where you have a high-powered career with a lot of money. And that really stokes your ego and you're conflicted. One part of you says, oh, I should follow my heart. The other one says, that would be foolish. I've built a successful career here. What am I going to do? Back and forth and back and forth. And if you take a step back, there are two voices in your head who are battling it out. Which one of the two of them is you? Well, the answer is neither of them. These are just aspects of your ego. And your ego is just a creation of your mind. It's understanding of who you are, what it believes about itself to be, its concerns built upon past experiences. These are just thoughts. They're thoughts. Because these are not the only two scenarios. Your mind can start spinning out a variety of different situations. And when you take a step back and say, oh, yeah, these are two voices in my head battling it out, who is it that's saying these are two voices in my head battling it out? Yet another voice. Yet another manifestation of your ego. You are not these thoughts. You are what it is that is behind those thoughts. It is that calm, that quiet, that ever expansive, that is separate, grander, more timeless than the stories that you tell yourself that your mind produces. So what this means for your manifestation is that your mind, your ego, have a concept about what it is that you do, what your options are, the most likely outcomes for you, the most optimal outcomes for the person, for the the most optimal outcomes for the storyteller in your mind who has certain beliefs about what it is that they want, what they want to achieve, who they are. But there are a variety of other ways. You can decide a third option, which is nowhere on your radar. Could be, I'm going to drop everything. And could be, I have just observed that I'm telling myself a story that I love my sweetheart in California and that it would be really desirable for me to follow her. And another story that I'm telling myself is that I would be insane to leave my high-powered job. I know these are just stories, and I'm going to test that story-making ability by running down the street naked, crying out that pink elephants have taken over your apartment and that you are delighted about it. You have an entire range of options of what choices to make in life every day. You are a creative God. You are a creative Yourself is creative. You are God in that way, in that you create realities. Is streaking down the road a likely outcome for the you in this story? Heck no, because that is not part of your self-concept. But you can break that self-concept, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. You can break that self-concept. You can break yourself out of a poverty mindset. You can decide and believe and embody the choices and the actions of a person who doesn't feel limited, who feels creative, who takes responsibility and agency in their life to create the outcomes that they want. And I need to take a moment to acknowledge a variety of things. First, it may sound like I'm blaming the victim for the difficult life somebody may have lived, the unspeakable events in some people's lives, the tragedies, the misfortunes, the loss, the violence, the pain. And truly, that is not my intention at all. Life can be difficult. We're not always in control of our realities. We are just in control of our actions and what kind of range of actions we want to take on a day-to-day. Misfortunes, bad luck, that all happens because we also live in a universe with other people's agency and creation all interacting at the same time, all having knock-on effects. And so what I am trying to say is that you didn't make this misfortune happen, but I am trying to empower you into understanding that you have choices in front of you. You have choices in what you believe about yourself and what kind of reality you can continue to build for yourself into the future. This won't stop bad things from happening, but it may help you manage those circumstances through the eyes and through the self-concept of a person who is much more resilient, who is much more empowered. Who is that person that you would want to be when faced with those challenging circumstances? Who is the person? What kind of choices would the person you want to be in 15 years make today to get there? And that is an empowering thing. The other thing I want to say is I'm not encouraging people to run into the street and declare that pink elephants are in their home. That would be insane. And in this timeline, you might end up in a mental hospital or an institution because our society would think you'd had a break with reality, a mental breakdown. And to some extent, that may not be wrong. And on the surface, it may appear that way. It's not a far stretch to dissociate and have derealization and your understanding of what is real. It's a fine line. It's important to remain grounded in the today, in the now, because your choices do have consequences. Yes, you have the freedom to do that, but also know that you have to be ready to live with the consequences of what that freedom gives you. And if you want to be the kind of person that is okay with those consequences, then power to you. You have the choice. What is the choice that you want? Who is the person that you want to be? And how do you get there? Odds are you probably don't want to end up in a mental institution, so don't make those choices. But you could. You really could. The only thing stopping you is you and your desired goals. If you change your goals, if you change the goalpost, you change your actions to get there. So how can you then manifest your life? Well, I've talked about it a little bit. Change your self-concept. Visualize who you want to be. Make those affirmations. Affirmations are important because they rewire the brain. The way you talk to yourself affects what you believe about yourself. There's a concept called neuroplasticity in neuroscience, and it's the idea that neurons that fire together wire together. And if you're not scientific and this sounds like gobbledygook, it basically means what you do repeatedly will continue to happen. It's just messages. And so when you do something repeatedly, you reinforce the bridge between that neuron and that part of the brain or that thought or that process. And that's how you build habits. Affirmations, things that you repeat, become the habits of your brain. So if you have negative self-talk, well, that habit reinforces itself with every time that you have a negative thought, kind of like the grooves in a record. They just keep going down that same path. So to break that path, you have to carve a new one. And the more you repeat that habit, the deeper that groove becomes and the harder it is to jump grooves. Affirmations will rewire your brain. And once you believe it, then you have a much easier time of manifesting it. A third thing, if you're having a hard time changing your self-concept, is practice yoga, practice meditation, practice them both. The reason why I say yoga is because when you are practicing the poses, you are invited to be present in your body, to notice the movement, to be mindful of your movements, to follow your body with your consciousness tied into your breath. And as you do that, you are also invited to notice your thoughts. Because when you're concentrated on your movements, you tend to become one with your movements, tend to become one with your breath. And sometimes the mind will wander, and you are invited to bring the mind back. Same thing in meditation. I just call yoga meditation and movement. And the more you do that, the more you exercise bringing your awareness to the present moment, to your body, the greater the separation between yourself, your true self, and your thoughts become. You start noticing it more. You notice the thought patterns. You say, oh, I'm having a thought. I'll bring back my attention to the movements. That is another way to start distancing yourself from the self-concept of who it is you are today. And then you can start implementing the self-concept of the person you want to become. And as you do that, you start creating new realities. And you jump along an infinite path of realities. And that's something that is called quantum leaping. And that's how you quantum leap from one reality with its set of circumstances to the next. It's based on every choice, every decision that you make or you don't make. And if you haven't seen it already, I talk about how the energy of your thought actually does create your reality. And if you found any value in this video, you know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps this growing channel connect with a wider audience and reach those people who really could benefit from it. And in parting, I'd like to hear, what is the first action you're going to take in changing your self-concept? Or what is one of those unconscious beliefs about yourself that you think has been limiting you this whole time? Thank you for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace and blessings.